Good evening. Welcome to the October 13th edition of the Downers Grove Village Council meeting. As is our tradition, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those present in council chambers this evening, copies of tonight's agenda can be found on either side of the room. And for those watching at home, the agenda, as well as links to all the documentation we have here on the dais, can be found on our website at downers.us, where in the lower left-hand corner you can find a link titled Current Week's Meetings. Due to the continuing COVID-19 pandemic, public comment will continue to be taken electronically as well as here in council chambers. To submit a question or comment electronically, you can visit that same This Week's Meetings webpage and click on the green Submit Public Comment link anytime during the meeting. We will check periodically for new submissions. Megan, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Earl?
Here.
Commissioner Wallace?
Here.
Commissioner Sadowski-Fugit?
Here.
Commissioner Colavini?
Here.
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Mayor Barnett?
Here. We are all present. That's great. We have item 3 on our agenda tonight are a couple of proclamations. The first is National Pharmacist Month. Whereas pharmacy is one of the oldest health professions concerned with the health and well-being of all people, and whereas pharmacists are specifically educated with a focus and level of expertise on medication therapy that exceeds that of other healthcare providers, and are ideally suited to work collaboratively with other healthcare providers and patients to improve medication use and outcomes by providing services through medication therapy management. And whereas during the COVID-19 pandemic, pharmacists have stepped up and continue to direct patient care, playing a crucial role in supporting patients during this unprecedented challenges to our healthcare system access. And whereas the American Pharmacists Association and the Illinois Pharmacists Association have declared October as American Pharmacists Month, whereas Downers Grove's own Midwestern University College of Pharmacy graduates approximately 200 qualified pharmacists yearly who go on to enter the healthcare system to practice patient-centered care. Now, therefore, I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as American Pharmacists Month in the Village of Downers Grove, and urge all of our citizens to acknowledge the valuable services of pharmacists to provide safe, affordable, beneficial pharmaceutical care, services, and products to all citizens, dated this 13th day of October 2020 at Downers Grove, Illinois. Trying to do our best to minimize contact in these COVID times, we have placed a copy of this proclamation at the podium and would like to invite a guest from Midwestern University, Brianna Fela. Brianna, if you've got a couple words, come on down and let us hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Mayor Barnett, commissioners, and residents of Downers Grove, on behalf of the American Pharmacists Association Academy of Student Pharmacists at the Midwestern University Chicago College of Pharmacy, I thank you for proclaiming October as American Pharmacists Month in the Village of Downers Grove. The purpose of this proclamation is to recognize the services that pharmacists provide to the community. Pharmacists are the most accessible healthcare providers who can provide health screenings, immunizations, and medication therapy management. As the medication experts, we can reduce the number of people who end up at the hospital, provide medication recommendations, and decrease the medication-related errors while improving patient care. We have seen the role of pharmacists begin to expand even more with the onset of COVID-19. Pharmacists are now allowed to administer vaccines in children as young as 3 years old and have played a vital role on provider teams for treating infected patients. With the pandemic continually present in our lives, our organization wanted to make sure that we are taking care of our patients and giving back to the Downers Grove community. We have adapted our clinics to now be accessible via drive-through. Patients can now get their blood pressure and blood glucose taken at their car by student pharmacists so that proper social distancing can be maintained. Comorbidities like uncontrolled diabetes and high blood pressure should be managed now more than ever, since they are risk factors for severe COVID outcomes. In addition to caring for our community, we are still giving our students opportunities to become leaders in healthcare. For example, our naloxone administration training program is still continuing to grow, and we have added a virtual component. Students now have trained other graduate schools on how to administer this life-saving opioid reversal drug while educating on the severity of substance use disorder. At the end of the day, it is so important to recognize the care that we continue providing for our patients and community. Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. Part of the COVID disappointment is we don't get to gather together. For those at home watching on TV, there's several from the pharmacy school here, and we really appreciate you guys coming tonight. Second proclamation we have concerns Arts DuPage Month. We have many great organizations in our community that embody the arts, including our grade school art programs, District 99 Fine Arts, the library, the Park District, the Art Department, Downers Grove Artists Guild, the Grove Players, Rock Academy, and many, many more educational and commercial efforts. So I want to take a moment and recognize the importance and impact of art on our community. Whereas the arts are the embodiment of all things beautiful, emotional, and entertaining in the world, an ever-present and enduring record and reflection of the human experience, defining personal, local, and national achievements and challenges. Whereas the arts have often shed light, focus, and awareness on the most valuable of our society, most vulnerable of our society. Whereas through the arts we explore what it means to be human, illuminate our inner lives, enrich our emotional world, and teach compassion. Whereas art has the power to facilitate social interactions, raise mutual understanding of those experiences that make us unique, and bring people and ideas together. Whereas art has time and again proven a comfort in crisis, an outlet in adversity, and a bridge to peace. Whereas the month of October has been recognized as Arts DuPage Month by Arts DuPage and the arts and cultural organizations in all communities within DuPage County. And whereas arts enhance every aspect of life in Downers Grove, playing a unique and intrinsically valuable role in the lives of our residents. Now therefore I, Robert T. Barnett, Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Arts DuPage Month and call upon all citizens to seek, engage, celebrate, and promote the arts in the Village of Downers Grove. Dated this 13th day of October 2020, Downers Grove, Illinois. Thank you all for that time. Item 4 on our agenda tonight concerns minutes of previous council meetings. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the October 6, 2020 minutes as presented.
Second.
Any council comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Item 5 on our agenda, public comments. This is the portion of our meeting where we take public comment on items not on tonight's agenda. So if there's anyone here that would like to bring something to our attention, please come on down to the podium. Seeing none. Oh, sorry. Mr. Rose is coming down.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'd originally intended to explain further why I asked the questions I did in my September remarks. However, the more I reflected on Council response to my remarks at the last meeting, the more I realized I needed to respond to them before doing anything else. Two of the comments were of the usual "we're doing something good" variety, consistent with Council's interpretation that the goal of environmental sustainability means doing some kind of Council-defined improvement whenever possible. That is, Council uses the word sustainable in what amounts to a politically deceptive manner. The "it's not our problem, it's beyond our control" response reflects the Council's conveniently narrow and politically conservative interpretation of its responsibilities. That attitude understanding begs the obvious question: who does Council imagine bears the responsibility, and why does Council not feel obliged to take steps to encourage those unnamed parties to act? Commissioner Sadowski-Fuzik's comment indicated Council's awareness of one aspect of several issues I raised, the need to learn more about the energy consumed by villages' way of living. Given Council's loose definition, however, Council not surprisingly felt comfortable deciding not to act. Council last produced one of its environmental improvement reports about 10 years ago or so, I believe. Again, given Council's loose definition, it was a nice to have, not a need to know type of document. If tight budgets were a factor in both decisions, thanks to the pandemic, Council now has even less budget to work with. And when the degree of uncertainty is as great as it feels right now, this and future councils face the uncomfortable prospect of having to keep shrinking the budget, which then begs the question, where does the motivation of money come from to collect data pertinent to the issue of sustainability? Isn't that also part of the reason the ECC has again been put on hold? combination of council's loose definition and lack of money makes the ECC another nice to have, but certainly not need to know, nice to have, but not need to have entity, which in turn leads individuals who volunteer to serve in the body to lose interest and or quit once they discover that the type of work council asks the ECC to do is at best meaningless relative to the seriousness of the issue. Finally, I would note in responding to Commissioner Jose's comment, I do not raise these issues because my intent is to come away personally satisfied as if I'm the final arbiter on the matter. Clearly, judgment of any kind on the relative merit of the council's understanding versus mine cannot be made until the council responds with its own logic, analysis, and evidence. The final arbiter on the matter is then either the village residents or if council should fail to respond, history revealing as we go forward whether the way of living in Downers Grove was in fact environmentally sustainable. One of my underlying concerns is that council's so-called long-term planning is hardly long-term and makes plans oblivious to influences around it. If those influences turn out to be negative and large enough, plans are disrupted, as is currently the case. I worry you believe the best the council can do in addressing the issue of sustainability is to react. I worry you believe council should just keep promoting pursuit of economic growth until the time comes when growth bumps up against limits, and that until then, this and future council shouldn't worry about it because you choose to believe there are no limits. I'm trying to persuade council to treat environmental sustainability as a real goal because my analysis argues the council's relentless pursuit of growth puts us all in further peril. I do not underestimate the difficult challenges my analysis prevent. That does not make them any less worthy of your response. To repeat, improved or better or doing something is not the same as sustainable, and environmental sustainability of our way of living is the issue. To also repeat, environmental sustainability is a systems concept. It is not an attribute of individual products or behaviors. That's a core part of the problem here. But comprehension is something you do control, unless you, of course, start from a position of refusing to think about it or think differently. I'm urging you to treat the matter seriously as part of council's fiduciary responsibility to the village. While it should go without saying, I also presume you should treat it seriously because you number yourselves among the set of people who do not wish to see humanity self-destruct. In that vein, I would hope you treat my questions as one to which your children and grandchildren and their generations deserve answers. Because I said so is an acceptable answer in certain circumstances, this is not one of them. In our situation, it's imperative to show your work. Thank you.
Commissioner Jose?
Thank you, Mayor. Since my name was invoked there, I thought I'd go ahead and say a few things. First off, I think, as the mayor has said many times, and I think other folks on the council as well, we seem to have a different definition of sustainability than you do, Mr. Rose, and I perfectly respect your right to your opinion, and that's just fine. But I take exception to the idea that either me or anybody else on this dais have been politically deceptive or otherwise deceptive. We have demonstrated a commitment to the environment. We've taken steps toward improving things. Yeah, you might like to see more, but we're getting there. And I think all of us should be proud of the steps we've taken. Many of the topics that you've covered over the period of the last few months really are not within the purview of this council, and I think might better be addressed to some of our other federal officials and perhaps state officials. With regard to economic growth, I'm proud of the economic growth that we've seen here in Downers Grove over the last 8 years, and I hope it continues. It helps us to continue our operations and expand them where we can, and do so at the most efficient and effective cost for our taxpayers. I'm perfectly comfortable embracing economic growth, and I think we can all work together on the local level, and I encourage our state and federal officials to work together to mitigate the environmental impacts of all of that. But thank you for continuing to raise your issues. I just think we see things in a fundamentally different way. Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else have a comment? Any other comments from the audience or subjects they'd like to talk about that are not on tonight's agenda? Please come on down to the podium.
Hi, my name is James Kelly.
James, hang on one second. If you'd get to the podium, it allows folks at home to still hear you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've been up here. Used to do it a lot. My name's James Kelly. I have been lucky to become very familiar with Downers Grove. It's an awesome community. It's a friendly, loving, caring community. But I have one little problem. Recently, I was on the way back to my apartment up in South Elgin, and some of my associates that, when I was homeless, were doing a feeding at the train station. I have a home now. I just traveled out here just to the city council meeting. They were passing out food out of the back of a Suburban, and I was impressed. I have a newspaper I started. I'm getting back on my feet, and I'm not proud of it, but I was homeless. But the point that I'm trying to make is, I don't know if any of you in the council have been ever homeless, but it's very expensive to be homeless. It costs me probably $25 to $35 to get a cup of coffee, a sandwich, and whatever I had to do to sustain the heat in my body when the shelters weren't open, which the shelters aren't open now. You can't just go into McDonald's and just sit there. You're threatened to be arrested. And like I said, there's always the different level of homelessness. But because of the virus that's happening right now, I was about to promote 9 carnivals in the state of Illinois. I had contracts and everything. I was looking to make like $50,000. Nice, huh? Well, that's gone. Not only that, but a couple of my newspaper associates, 7 newspapers are closed, never to be open again. It's not a matter of situation of the homeless person or the displaced person. Any of you could be displaced. 30 years ago, my clients were Fox 32, Chicago Sun-Times, Intuition Music, and I did consulting and troubleshooting. Okay, I'm approaching you guys, and I can be contacted if there's anything that you guys could put together, because you have a wonderful town. It's great. You had some great events. You got some awesome businesses. I've supported them before. I supported them now. And you've got to pay really big attention to, because it's not that person that has a drinking problem anymore, because I know a lot of homeless people around Downers Grove, and some of them do have drinking problems, some do have drug problems, and to the point it's everywhere. But now came to the new homeless, which are people that lost their home, have their children, have a domestic situation, and have stability for 25, 30 years of their life, and all of a sudden everything is gone. And if that person can't get a sandwich or a soda or a hot cup of coffee or some direction, then that same person that supported your community when they were making money is going to fall out of the community. There's a rumor that if you're homeless now, along the Burlington line from Berwyn all the way to Aurora, they give you a train pass to go to the shelter in Aurora. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a shelter in Aurora or any shelter. It's not a nice place. Okay? And I'm just saying, City Council, whatever you guys can do, you need to address this matter, because it's not a situation now where it's just Joe's got a problem. It's everybody's going to have a problem. And with the economy right now, it could get really bad, and it could get really bad quick. So it's not a matter of don't pass out food at the train station, okay? Because I know, I took pictures of everything in the last 2 years, and people had set stuff on top of the garbage can. I would watch people have their lunch and buy an extra lunch and put it in that garbage can for somebody that was hungry. To be honest with you, I was one of them. I was lost. I came out of retirement. I had health issues. I was rushed from a hospital, from a pad site to a hospital bed. And then the last time that happened, they had to find me someplace to live. Because it wasn't a matter, I could not live on the street anymore, and I have insurance. So I get subsidized housing, and I work every day to get away from it. And unfortunately, when you give and give and give to people, they get used to it. But there's still that crowd out there, that small percentage, that wants a hand up, not a hand down. So I'm asking you people to consider working with your churches, working with your businesses, working with me if I could do anything to help. I have lots of resources now that I'm out of retirement at 60 years old. People think I'm crazy to come out of retirement at 60, but I was bored and I lost over 200 pounds in the last 2-something years. I'm not starving. I purposely did it. God bless you all. Please address this issue. Don't blow it off. Because I'll tell you what, before you know it, it's not a matter of the virus, it's a matter of the human race. Because we all have to understand we're all part of this human race. And we all have to care. And it's not a hustle. It's not a game. It's not this non-for-profit is doing this. This non-for-profit isn't doing this. We as individuals, we have to always constantly think about the difference to make the difference in the world. Some people have a little time. Some people have a lot of time. Unfortunately, I'm in a position where I have a lot of time to call away from South Elgin to come here and address you, City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Appreciate you taking the time. It's a, when you say it's a human issue, you're exactly right. And I appreciate you saying that. We treat it that way. And when you started out by talking about the friendly nature of Downers Grove, there are a lot of folks in town that are focused on trying to be helpful, and we're trying to work with them. Appreciate you taking the time. Thank you. Anyone else with a subject not on tonight's agenda? Okay, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion concerning the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any comments from the council or questions concerning the consent agenda? Rich?
Just one really brief comment. I really want to thank our award-winning fire department for their willingness to work with us, understanding that our financial situation is a lot different than recent years. So your cooperation is greatly appreciated, shows the great teamwork, and thank you so much.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 7 on tonight's agenda is our active agenda. These are items on which we plan to take action tonight because we have previously discussed them. We have 2 items on the active agenda tonight. Is there a motion concerning an ordinance on 5117 Fairview?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance rezoning certain property located at 5117 Fairview Avenue as presented.
Second.
Do we have any comments or questions on this from the audience? Okay. Marge?
I just want to comment because this goes with the next item, and I'll just have my comments now. I want to really thank the petitioner for moving the building a little bit. Every little bit is going to make a difference in this case. Thank you. The landscape plan has been amended to include native vegetation, 75%. That's great. And stormwater storage, most of all. I really, really appreciate the help with the stormwater storage. So every little bit we can do to make things better and go above and beyond, I really, really appreciate it. So thank you. Welcome to Downers Grove, and I hope everything goes well.
Thank you. Rich?
I echo Commissioner Earle's comments as well. Thanks so much.
Mr. Baker, we got anything online?
No comments at this time.
Okay, I think everybody's probably heads are nodding. Commissioner Earle put it well, and we appreciate that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The 2 passes unanimously. There is another ordinance in front of us concerning the same property. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that the council adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the Village of Downers Grove, Illinois, to designate the property at 5117 Fairview Avenue as Planned Unit Development Number 62, and authorize an 18-unit multifamily residential development as presented.
Second.
Any additional comments or questions? Okay, any from the audience? For those watching at home, these were two items associated with the same parcel. One is a rezoning, and the second is the creation of a PUD. PUD is a zoning and planning tool that needs to be applied if it's so voted tonight. But there's a couple of motions on the same property to facilitate some redevelopment there. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That too passed unanimously. As Commissioner Earl said, thank you and welcome. That ends our active agenda tonight. Takes us to our first reading portion of our meeting. First reading are items we plan to discuss tonight, but not likely take action on. With that, I'll hand it over to Mayor Fieldman, Manager Dave Fieldman.
That's likely not to happen at any time. Two items on tonight's first reading agenda. Both will be presented by our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich. Stan.
Thank you, Manager Fieldman. Good evening, Mayor and Council members tonight. The first item before you tonight is the zoning ordinance text amendments. The first category we're going to talk about tonight is tattoo and body piercing establishments. The courts have recently determined that tattoos are pure speech and tattooing is an expressive activity under the First Amendment. So the village's prohibition of these types would be a violation of those laws. So staff has proposed to allow these types of businesses in the business and manufacturing zoning districts, similar to other personal improvement services that are able to locate in the village at the current time. Other text amendments fall into the sort of miscellaneous category. We've looked at accessory structures. We have some more townhome developments that have been taking place where with flat roofs, people are looking to put more structures and accessories, sort of like hot tubs and dikes up top. So we're including that in some of these provisions. Additionally, we looked at corner yards and corner lots. With driveways, a lot of this is evolving with driveways out of shared driveways and where people can replace shared driveways and where they can't. We've approved a lot of administrative adjustments over the past couple of years. So when we go down these times with the zoning ordinance, we continue to approve minor adjustments. It's time that we adjust our zoning ordinance. That's what we're doing with driveways here. And then we also looked at non-conforming accessory structures. So these are principally detached garages. A lot of people want to save their garage but add on. It's a little bit of a challenging situation. So we've tried to clarify in the zoning ordinance what you can and can't do with non-conforming accessory structures. The Plan Commission considered these amendments at their September 14th meeting and found that the standards were met and recommended approval. If there's any questions I can answer at this time, I'd be happy to, Mayor.
Thank you, Stan. Any questions from the council? Kevin.
Thanks, Mayor. Stan, real quick, I just had a question. When we were looking over this, what was, just to kind of get caught up on the issues that we ran into when we made the last zoning change, what were some of the issues that shops like tattoo shops, which are currently a little bit more mainstream, what were some of the problems back then? Just to...
I think there was concern about behaviors that might be occurring in those establishments. And I think when we amended our zoning ordinance, I think in 2014, and in 2015 is when that change came into place to really limit those establishments.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions, council? No? That's it.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. I will go ahead and move on to the next item, which is talking about outdoor dining and specifically extending the emergency order regarding outdoor dining and liquor provisions. So the proposal would be to allow private property owners to extend outdoor dining through March 15th of 2021. That would be the date that outdoor dining could then again start under our normal procedures in 2021. If there would be a outdoor dining, folks that would want to use a tent or a structure, that would require a permit so that we can have a severe weather plan and understand if they're going to heat it and make sure that those items are safe that way. With public property, that is proposed not to change, so that would not extend past November 1st or 15th of this year. Staff is looking to reestablish more 15-minute parking spaces in the downtown to facilitate some carry-out opportunities for the restaurants down there. And then the liquor provisions would also extend. If you have any questions on that, Mayor and Council, I'd be happy to answer those at this time as well.
Thank you, Stan. Council comments or questions on these? Fred?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to thank staff for bringing this forward. I think it strikes the right balance between the need to help out our businesses which obviously have been struggling, especially restaurants. And also, the need to make sure that folks are safe. We need to make sure that these tents are well maintained, they fit with all of our codes for health and safety. And I think these rules do that. And I appreciate that we're extending some of the other ones as well with regard to alcohol and whatnot. So I look forward to voting in favor of this probably next week. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Greg. Rich?
Yes, I'd like to thank staff as well. And kind of a question, when you discussed this particularly with the restaurants downtown, could you explain what their feeling was about the current situation with seating in the parking spaces and on the sidewalks?
I haven't spoken to much, but I'm sure Manager Thielman can chime in.
I can ask Mike Baker to chime in because he's our representative to Downtown Management Corporation on their board, and I believe that there was a recent discussion about this, and I think Mike's make his way up.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, at the last Downtown Management Board meeting, the topic did come up of dining in the downtown. We have 2 restaurant owners on the Downtown Management Board, and they were able to discuss the challenges that they certainly have faced and will continue to face, and really as the weather gets colder, just the difficulty that they'll have sustaining outdoor dining. And so one restaurant owner in particular said that his preference and the focus of their establishment is going to be to supplement the indoor dining with a carryout, more robust carryout program. So that's the sense that we've gotten from quite a few of the downtown restaurants. And so we'll try to assist with enhanced short-term parking.
Thank you. I had one more question, and I don't know if did we look into the type of heating units that are available for these tents and the effectiveness? And I know they can't put the propane heaters under the tents because of the fire hazard of that, but
There's a variety of heaters that are available. A lot of it just comes down to safety and what you can do with them and how you store the propane, where the propane is stored, and then where the heaters are in relationship to flammable materials.
and then how intrepid the Downers Grove diners are.
And how cold the weather is, I'm guessing, as well.
That's right. We should have an Eskimo open for outdoor dining. 10 below, I made it. Thank
Any
you.
council questions or comments? Stan, thanks again for your work on this, and Mike too, and the folks at Downtown Management as well. As Greg said, balance was the word he used to start. That's certainly what this is, but it's also a feedback loop with our restaurant community to try and figure out how to manage their needs, and with our retail merchants downtown and trying to figure out how to manage their needs in what continues to be an uncertain environment. We're all still doing the very best we can to balance some real challenges, and it is something other than normal, at least for the foreseeable future. So I appreciate everybody's work and diligence in trying to participate in the conversation and help us adjust as we go to do the best we can. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor.
And that concludes our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Before I go back to Manager/Mayor Fieldman, probably something weird Freudian in that. Mr. Baker, is there anything online that came in concerning these two first reading items?
No, Mayor, no comments.
Thanks, Mike. Over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Mayor. We have some good news to share with the council and the community today. Earlier today, the Village of Downers Grove received a CARES Act grant in the amount of $2.54 million, just over $2.5 million. This grant, which was administered and provided by DuPage County, reimburses the village for pandemic-related expenses, including primarily police and fire payroll expenses. This funding, as you may recall, is our Tier 1 of our multi-tiered plan in response to the pandemic. Needless to say, boy, this funding is greatly appreciated. We thank very much the legislators at the federal level for passing the CARES Act and making this money available to us, especially the local legislators living right here in the village of Downers Grove, and also to each and every county board member and county board chair for their support of not only the Village of Downers Grove, but all the members and residents of the county by and through their support of municipalities. Grants are available to every municipality in the county on a per capita basis. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone got any questions? Marge?
I don't have a question, but I just want you to know there was a collective sigh of relief from here when you announced that. So please understand how much we were really hoping this money was coming through, and this is the first we've heard of that it has. Thank goodness. So thank goodness for everybody. Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, this is kind of a double-edged scenario in that it's tough for organizations like the Village of Downers Grove, who has been prudent and frugal with our funding. When times get tough, we don't have fat to cut. But the other side of that coin is that we've been run very well financially, and we've built up the reserves over time, and we've been able to call on those reserves while still protecting the general reserve. So, I mean, my optimistic feeling is that we're going to come out of this thing in really good shape and with our AAA bond rating intact, which will allow us to fund future developments with a much lower interest rate. So that goes to the good work of our village staff, the budget team, for minding the P's and Q's over the year, and then specifically putting a proactive plan together that addressed the situation and did it quickly. And I mean, the good news is that the results are turning out to be much better than we originally thought from the worst case scenario. So that takes work, it takes discipline, and yeah, so good job with that.
Anyone else? At the risk of being the Debbie Downer of the group, I am thrilled and thankful to have received that money, to be sure. But at the risk of $2.5 million of federal money sounding like a lotto ticket, it is not. It is about 20% or so, or 25% perhaps, of our total paying for 2020 only. And our challenges continue for the foreseeable future into 2021 with no particular plan forward in terms of any known additional federal or state or county aid coming our way. So it is a much welcome piece of relief, but that's about it. And we still, to Rich's point about diligence and focus, we still have a lot of work to do. It'll be heavy lifting for a while.
And to that end, Mayor, next week we'll have another installment of our monthly COVID-19 financial response plan. We'll show you how all this fits into our overall response plan. And then just adding to the thank yous, the leadership at the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference is so greatly appreciated in this endeavor, and working with our elected leaders and staff members at DuPage County, particularly Suzette Quintel. Her leadership was exceptional. It also offered us the platform for a working group, which I was proud to serve on, that interacted on this project, and the elected leaders at DMMC as well. A couple of mayors from the DuPage County really stepped up. So really a great value for us in being part of that organization. Thanks to Suzette. And that ends our manager's report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Item 10, Attorney's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. Only one item to present tonight. That is an ordinance amending certain zoning provisions, and it will appear on next week's active agenda.
Thank you, Enzo. Item 11 on our agenda are mayor and council members' reports. These are opportunities for council members to fill us in on other things going on around the community, or other entities they may have engagements with or interactions with. And so Rich is looking at me, so I'm going to pick on Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh, do you have any report?
All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things that have kind of hit my radar and really have hit a lot of our radars over the last several months have been, of the many items that we discussed, small businesses, which we've talked about this evening, had discussions on earlier this week, and then with all the ups and downs with COVID and our young people. Not only how we are doing as adults, but how are our young people doing? And so there was something that popped up online related to a youth group, the Dolls organization, which I'm just now becoming familiar with. I reached out to the organizers of the Dolls organization, who was having a fundraiser for their girls softball team. COVID-19 has changed plans for everyone, and in this case in particular, they've gone from an annual $900 fee for using parks to, I think, something like $6,000 in terms of having to rent out higher price space. The Dolls organization is a nonprofit girls fast pitch softball program established in Downers Grove in 1969. For over 50 years, Dolls has been providing young women between the ages of 9 and 16 a safe place to get physically active, improve their self-confidence, gain leadership skills, and make connections with their peers. They're actually doing a program with the organization, and forgive me for not having that with me, that cleans the garbage cans. But I asked for more information because the fundraiser allows individuals who would like to contribute more to their cause. And so I'm going to probably repeat this 2 or 3 times between now and their fundraising cutoff. But the organizer is Dee Dee Schaefer, and she can be reached at 630-204-8273. I just think anything that we can do to keep our young people moving and active. I cannot imagine being locked in the house for as long as they have been. And so we want to try to do as much as we can to keep their efforts moving forward. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Kavanaugh. Marge?
I have no report, Mayor.
Greg?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Rich?
Just a couple. You know, we had a little bit of rain on Sunday and some leaves came down, so just kind of reminding our residents, I have not looked at the weather report, but if you could do your job near your residents to pull the leaves away from the drains so the streets don't get flooded. And the second one, I'm not part of this organization, but just like to put in a reminder for the Bonfield Express. It's an important organization. They do good work in scholarships and things like that, so they're still asking for people to sign up and do a virtual walk or run, so it's a worthwhile thing. So I just wanted to remind you of that. And maybe I'll run into you doing my 3.1 mile or 5K walk. I won't be running.
Thanks, Rich. Leslie?
Yeah, I do have something. There are a couple Downers Grove residents that are finalizing a permit. Some small changes are in progress for this Saturday, October 17th from 2 to 5 p.m. They're holding a Women 100 Strong event in conjunction with the Women's March in Downers Grove. So the final meeting location will be available on the Facebook event page and in the Downers Grove patch when all of those details are finalized under community events. And it is nonpartisan, so all are welcome. And masks are required, please, and try to social distance when possible. It'll all be outdoors.
Thank you. Nicole?
Rich stole mine. No report, Mayor.
He's like that. He was kind of chomping at the bit down there, too.
Who writes your material? I want to know how many days to the next Rotary Grove Fest.
Oh, shoot.
I can't follow any of that. I have no report. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.